It was a quiet evening in the small village where Lola and her husband, Kunle, lived. Lola, a kind woman, had been married for 5 years but had no children. She often prayed to God, asking for a baby, but her prayers seemed unanswered. One night, Lola woke up suddenly. She had heard a noise outside her room. It sounded like soft whispers. Curiosity made her follow the sound. She tiptoed down the dark hallway, careful not to wake Kunle. The sound led her to the backyard, where she saw something shocking. Mama Jumoke, Kunle's mother, was standing in a circle of candles. Her lips moved as if she was talking, but no one was there. Strange shadows danced around her, though the night was still. Lola's heart pounded. What was Mama Jumoke doing? She stayed hidden behind the door, watching. Suddenly, Mama Jumoke held up a small doll. It looked like a baby made of clay. She whispered strange words and then burned the doll in a fire. Lola felt fear creep into her heart. She wanted to scream but covered her mouth. She rushed back to her room, trembling. Was Mama Jumoke doing something evil? Was this why she couldn't have children? The next day, Lola tried to act normal, but her mind was full of questions. She decided to keep an eye on Mama Jumoke to find out the truth. Mama Jumoke, however, acted as if nothing had happened. She cooked, laughed, and told stories like any other day. Lola wondered how someone could hide such a dark secret behind a smiling face. That night, Lola couldn't sleep. She whispered a prayer, asking God for guidance. She promised herself she would uncover whatever Mama Jumoke was hiding. Little did Lola know, she was about to uncover a terrifying secret that would change her life forever. Lola spent the next few days pretending everything was fine, but inside, she was burning with curiosity and fear. She started following Mama Jumoke's every move. One evening, Mama Jumoke told Kunle she was going to visit a sick friend. Lola knew it was a lie. As soon as Mama Jumoke left, Lola followed her. She kept a safe distance, hiding behind trees and walls. Mama Jumoke walked to a small hut at the edge of the village. Lola peeked through the window and saw a shocking sight. Inside the hut, Mama Jumoke was not alone. She was with 3 other women. They wore red cloths and sat in a circle. In the middle of the circle was a pot with something boiling inside. The women started chanting and Lola's body froze. She couldn't understand their words, but she knew it was evil. Then, Mama Jumoke stood up and said, "I offer the unborn once again for my youth." Lola's heart broke. Tears ran down her face as she realized the truth. Mama Jumoke was sacrificing her unborn children to stay young forever. Lola ran back home, her chest heavy with pain. She couldn't tell Kunle yet. She needed proof. But she knew she had to act fast before Mama Jumoke destroyed another child. She decided to visit Pastor David, the kind and wise leader of their village church. The next morning, she told him everything she saw. Pastor David held her hands and said, "God will fight this battle with you, my daughter." Lola felt hope for the first time in a long while. She knew she wasn't alone. Together, she and Pastor David began to plan how to stop Mama Jumoke. Their journey would be dangerous, but Lola was determined. She had to save her future children from Mama Jumoke's wicked hands. Lola and Pastor David sat in the small church, discussing how to stop Mama Jumoke. The pastor explained that fighting such evil would require prayer, faith, and wisdom. "We need to uncover more evidence," Pastor David said. "The truth must come to light, so she cannot deny it." Lola nodded, her heart heavy but determined. That night, Pastor David called for a special prayer group. He invited trusted members of the church who could keep the matter secret. Together, they prayed for God's protection and guidance. Lola felt a sense of peace as she joined their prayers, though fear still lingered in her heart. Meanwhile, Mama Jumoke noticed Lola was behaving differently. She saw how Lola avoided her gaze and spent more time at the church. Mama Jumoke became suspicious and decided to watch Lola closely. One evening, Lola told Kunle she was going to see her friend, but she went to meet Pastor David instead. They planned to follow Mama Jumoke again, this time with other church members nearby to help. Mama Jumoke left the house late that night, carrying a small bag. Lola and Pastor David followed her quietly, staying hidden in the shadows. Behind them, 2 church members trailed at a safe distance. Mama Jumoke entered the same hut as before. Lola and Pastor David peeked through the window. This time, they saw Mama Jumoke holding a white cloth stained with blood. The sight made Lola feel sick, but she didn't look away. "Tonight, we must act," Pastor David whispered. He sent one of the church members to fetch more people from the prayer group. They needed strength in numbers to confront such evil. Inside the hut, Mama Jumoke and the women began their ritual. They chanted louder, and the air grew thick with an unexplainable force. Lola clutched Pastor David's arm, afraid but determined. When the church members returned, Pastor David led them in prayer outside the hut. Their voices rose as they called on God to break the evil forces. Inside, Mama Jumoke suddenly stopped. She looked around, sensing the spiritual power outside. "It's time," Pastor David said. The group burst into the hut, catching Mama Jumoke and the others by surprise. Lola's heart raced as she stepped inside, ready to face her greatest fear. The room fell silent as the church members entered. Mama Jumoke's eyes widened in shock, but she quickly composed herself. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded, her voice cold. Pastor David stepped forward. "We know what you've been doing, Mama Jumoke. Your wickedness ends tonight." Mama Jumoke laughed, her voice echoing in the small hut. "You dare challenge me? Do you know who I am?" Her eyes glowed with a strange light, sending shivers down Lola's spine. "We know exactly who you are," Pastor David said firmly, "and we know the God who is greater than you." He began to pray, and the other church members joined him. Their voices grew louder, filling the room with a powerful energy. Mama Jumoke screamed in anger. She reached for a black pot in the corner, but Lola rushed forward and knocked it out of her hands. The pot shattered on the floor, releasing a foul-smelling smoke. "You think you can stop me?" Mama Jumoke hissed. "I've lived for decades because of this power. You will not take it from me." But Pastor David and the others didn't stop praying. The room shook as their prayers grew stronger. Mama Jumoke fell to her knees, clutching her head as if in pain. Lola stood over her, tears streaming down her face. "You took my children. You caused my pain. But no more. God will fight for me." Mama Jumoke looked up, her face twisted in anger and fear. "You have no idea what you're dealing with," she spat. But her strength was fading, and the glowing light in her eyes dimmed. The church members continued praying until the room felt lighter, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. Mama Jumoke collapsed, unconscious. Pastor David stepped forward and said, "It is not over yet, but God has begun his work." Lola felt a mixture of relief and determination. She knew the battle was far from over, but she was ready to face whatever came next. The next morning, the village buzzed with whispers about what had happened at the hut. Some people believed Mama Jumoke was a victim of lies, while others were curious about the truth. Lola sat in her home, exhausted but resolute. She had spent the night praying and crying, her heart aching for the children she had lost. Kunle noticed her sadness, but didn't understand the full story. "What's wrong, my love?" he asked, sitting beside her. Lola hesitated, wondering how to tell him the truth. Finally, she took a deep breath and said, "Kunle, there's something you need to know about your mother." As Lola spoke, Kunle's face changed, from confusion to disbelief. He shook his head. "That's impossible. Mama is not capable of such evil." "I saw it with my own eyes," Lola insisted, tears streaming down her face. "She is the reason I cannot have children." Kunle stood up, pacing the room. "This doesn't make sense. Why would she do such a thing?" Lola didn't have an answer, but she begged him to speak with Pastor David. Reluctantly, Kunle agreed. That evening, they went to the church. Pastor David explained everything, including the confrontation at the hut. Kunle listened in silence, his hands clenched into fists. "This is too much," he said finally. "I need time to think." He left the church, leaving Lola and Pastor David worried about what he might do. Meanwhile, Mama Jumoke woke up in her room, weak and angry. She knew her powers had been weakened, but she wasn't ready to give up. She called on the spirits, begging them to restore her strength. The spirits answered, but their message was clear. Lola was protected. "She has a shield of prayer around her," they said. "You cannot touch her unless her faith wavers." Mama Jumoke's anger grew. She vowed to find another way to regain her power, even if it meant destroying her own family. News of Mama Jumoke's evil deeds spread quickly. Some villagers supported Lola and Pastor David, while others accused them of lying. Mama Jumoke had always been respected, and many found it hard to believe she was capable of such wickedness. Kunle was caught in the middle. He loved his mother, but he couldn't ignore what Lola had seen. He spent hours alone, trying to make sense of everything. One evening, Mama Jumoke called Kunle to her room. She looked pale and weak, but her voice was firm. "Kunle, my son, do you believe the lies they are spreading about me?" Kunle hesitated. "Mama, I don't know what to believe, but if you are innocent, why don't you defend yourself?" Mama Jumoke's eyes darkened. "I don't need to defend myself. They are the ones who should be ashamed. I am your mother, Kunle. You must stand by me." Kunle left the room, torn between his loyalty to his mother and his love for Lola. He decided to confront Lola one last time to hear her side of the story. Lola was in the kitchen when Kunle walked in. "Lola, do you truly believe my mother is behind all this?" he asked. Lola looked at him with tearful eyes. "Kunle, I wish it weren't true, but it is. She has taken so much from us. I need you to believe me." Kunle hugged her tightly, yet his heart heavy with doubt and love. "I don't know what to do," he whispered. The village continued to divide. Some people rallied around Lola and Pastor David, joining the prayer group to protect the village from evil. Others stood by Mama Jumoke, refusing to believe she was guilty. The tension grew, and it became clear that a final confrontation was inevitable. Mama Jumoke sat alone in her room, staring into a small mirror. Her face looked older than before, the lines on her skin deeper. She clenched her fists, angry at her weakened state. She refused to accept defeat. "I will not lose everything because of that girl," she muttered. She reached under her bed and pulled out a wooden box. Inside were charms and strange powders she had kept hidden for years. Mama Jumoke decided to summon the spirits one last time. This time she would not ask for help, she would demand it. She carried the box to the small hut in the forest where her rituals usually took place. The night was dark and quiet. Mama Jumoke placed her items in a circle, lit a fire, and began chanting. The air grew cold, and a strange wind blew through the trees. The spirits appeared, their voices echoing in the hut. "You have failed, Mama Jumoke," one spirit said. "The woman you fight is protected. Leave her, or you will lose everything." But Mama Jumoke refused to listen. "Give me back my power. I am willing to pay any price." The spirits warned her. "The price will be heavy. Are you ready to sacrifice your son?" Mama Jumoke froze. Sacrificing Kunle would give her power beyond imagination, but she loved him deeply. For the first time, doubt crept into her heart. "I will think about it," she whispered. The spirits vanished, leaving her alone in the darkness. Meanwhile, Lola and Pastor David continued their prayers. The church group grew larger as more villagers joined them. They prayed day and night, asking God to protect the village and expose all evil. Kunle, still torn, decided to visit his mother. He found her sitting in her room, looking troubled. "Mama, is it true?" he asked softly. "Have you done these terrible things?" Mama Jumoke looked at him, her heart breaking. She wanted to deny everything, but she couldn't bring herself to lie anymore. "Kunle, I did it for you, for our family," she said. Kunle stepped back, shocked. "For me? How could you think this was for me?" He stormed out, leaving Mama Jumoke alone with her guilt. Lola watched Kunle from a distance, her heart aching for him. She prayed silently, asking God to guide her husband. She knew the final battle was near. That night, Mama Jumoke made her decision. She would do whatever it took to regain her power, even if it meant making the ultimate sacrifice. The night was quiet, but the air felt heavy with tension. Lola couldn't sleep, sensing something was about to happen. She stayed awake, praying and keeping watch. At the same time, Mama Jumoke prepared for her final ritual. She walked to the hut with a heavy heart, holding a small picture of Kunle. Tears streamed down her face as she placed the picture in the center of the ritual circle. The spirits appeared again. "Have you made your choice?" they asked. Mama Jumoke nodded. "I will give you what you ask. Take him, but give me my power." The spirits began their work, but something unexpected happened. A bright light filled the hut, and the voices of the church prayer group echoed in the air. Pastor David and his team had been praying at the church, and their prayers reached the spiritual realm. The spirits screamed and vanished. Mama Jumoke's ritual was interrupted. The power she sought slipped from her grasp. She fell to the ground, weeping. At that moment, Lola felt a peace she hadn't felt in years. She woke Kunle and told him, "It is finished." He didn't understand, but he trusted her words. The next morning, Mama Jumoke returned to the house, looking weak and defeated. She confessed everything to Kunle and Lola, begging for their forgiveness. Kunle couldn't hold back his tears. "Mama, why would you do this?" he asked. She explained her desire to stay young and strong, but now she realized it wasn't worth the cost. Lola forgave her, but she made it clear that things could never be the same. "You must repent and turn to God," she said. "Only He can save you now." The morning sun rose over the village, casting a warm glow on the land. It felt like a new beginning. Mama Jumoke sat outside her house, her head bowed in shame. She had lost everything: her power, her pride, and the trust of her family. Kunli and Lola stood a few feet away, watching her. Kunli finally spoke. "Mama, I don't know if I can ever forgive you. You hurt us deeply." His voice cracked with emotion. "But I still love you because you are my mother." Lola stepped forward, her voice gentle but firm. "Mama, forgiveness is a gift from God, and I choose to forgive you. But you must change your ways and seek His mercy. Only God can heal the pain you've caused." Mama Jumoke looked up, tears streaming down her face. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I let my greed consume me. I will spend the rest of my life asking for forgiveness, from you, from God, and from everyone I've hurt." Pastor David visited the family later that day. He brought a Bible and sat with Mama Jumoke, teaching her about repentance and the love of God. She listened intently, nodding as he spoke. For the first time in years, her heart felt lighter. Meanwhile, the church group continued to pray for the family. The villagers who had doubted Lola and Pastor David began to see the truth. Many of them came to apologize for their disbelief, offering their support and prayers. Days turned into weeks, and Mama Jumoke began to change. She joined the church and spent her days helping others, determined to make up for her past mistakes. She no longer sought eternal youth, but embraced the natural passage of time. One evening, Lola sat under a tree in her yard, watching the stars. Kunle joined her, holding her hand. "Do you think we'll ever have children?" he asked softly. Lola smiled, her heart full of hope. "I believe we will. God's timing is perfect." Months later, Lola discovered she was pregnant. She and Kunle rejoiced, tears of joy filling their eyes. The news spread quickly through the village, and everyone celebrated the miracle. Even Mama Jumoke wept with happiness, grateful for a chance to see her family whole again. On the day Lola gave birth, the entire village gathered to celebrate. The cries of a healthy baby filled the air, a sign of new beginnings and answered prayers. Mama Jumoke held her grandchild, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, God, for this second chance," she whispered. The family's journey had been filled with pain, loss, and betrayal, but in the end, love and faith had triumphed. They learned that even the darkest hearts could find redemption, and that forgiveness could bring healing to the deepest wounds. Dear viewers, if you were in Kunle and Lola's position, would you have forgiven your mother or mother-in-law, accepted her back, and allowed her to come close to the child she once killed? Drop your answers in the comments section, and if you enjoyed this video, remember to drop a like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories.